Good evening, everyone. Tonight we got Jason with us. He's going to teach us how to hook up our FM transmitters and make them sound like $1 million. Take it away, Jason.
Thank you very much. This is Perfect Sound, Perfect Show, audio and FM transmission. There is the link to my Facebook page, my Lights on Symphony Street show, if you want to check it out for yourself. So a little bit about myself. My name is Jason Rasmussen, and I am from Anaheim, California. I've been doing a synchronized light display since 2017. It is an Anaheim Beautiful award-winning show. I love theme parks, electronic music, reading, hiking, and camping. And yes, I have danced in Disneyland's Very Merry Christmas Parade from 1987 to 1989. And yes, you can find a televised footage of me. That's me in the middle picture there. On the left, Cubby the Bear. So too long, didn't read. Most of you are probably watching this close to the showtime. And what do you do with the audio? Just plug it in, turn a dial, you hear some sound, and I'm good to go, right? No. You spend all year on your display, but you can't be bothered to watch a 1 hour video on improving your audio, which is literally half your show and vitally critical. Can you at least spare me 6 minutes? But I do recommend watching the entire presentation to get the most out of your audio. You've spent all year building your display, 3D printing essential items, sequencing. Who am I kidding? You likely don't sequence yourself. Going to Home Depot again and again and again. And your lights look absolutely beautiful. But oh no, it's a week from showtime and I forgot all about the audio. And it sounds like this. Or like this. Or like this. Audio is literally half your show, often an afterthought, and one can't be bothered to watch an hour video on audio and FM transmission. Link in description below, and you really should watch it. You've come to the right place. Nothing sponsored, no affiliations. I just want your display to sound as good as it looks. Oh, look. The older Pis have audio out. I'll just use this. Guess what? It's trash. But I run xScheduler and my computer has a headphone out. Generic. Trash. My device doesn't have an audio out. What am I to do? Upgrade your sound card with the Creative Sound Blaster. Creative has been making high-quality audio devices with custom chips for decades. They know PC audio, and the difference is night and day. Don't settle for generics. But onboard sounds fine. You didn't get into this hobby to do things fine or half-baked. Audio is something you need to hear the difference yourself. Don't cheap out on 19 bucks. Well, I'll just use this cheapo USB adapter. Generic audio. Trash. But this is a few bucks cheaper. Cheap USB. Trash. Onboard and generics output sound. Yes, but not quality sound. If using one of these Culp boards, they use a TI DAC, which also outputs quality sound parity to the Sound Blaster, so you're good to go on the audio out. If you're using a BeagleBone, Pi 5, Zero, or Hat, USB audio is your only choice. Get the Sound Blaster Play 3. If not in stock, alternatives can be found here. Wouldn't be the first time I've had Amazon go out of stock. Power off, plug in, turn on, select the Sound Blaster. Keep the volume at 70 and leave it. Add a 5-second boot delay if the sound card isn't showing up. Still not showing up or it goes away? You probably have an overpowered FM transmitter or an underpowered Pi. Plug in your audio source to output. Speaking of power, if a Pi or BeagleBone is underpowered, expect weirdness. Use official Pi power supplies whenever possible. Ditch random power supplies and cables for quality ones. Too many USB devices sucking power and causing weirdness? Get a powered hub. FM will be the best way to broadcast quality, no latency audio. And no, FM isn't going away. Bluetooth is narrowcast will always introduce a delay, and phone speakers will never compare to actual speakers. These are the most common FM transmitters in our hobby, which can be obtained. All have their pros and cons, but if you just want an out-of-box experience, the half-watt Sign Stack or equivalent is a good choice. Don't ever buy a higher wattage unless you want problems.
If I bring them up close to my FM transmitter, they start to go crazy.
If using a Sign Stack half watt, set to low power. Rolls and FM board transmitters have no power adjustments. Pro tip, buy a second for a backup. RDS for song info? I don't even bother. Use your Remote Falcon to show what is playing, artwork, show information, vote for songs, and more. Some don't come with antennas, and if supplied, they generally are not that great. And cutting a random length of wire is even worse. For a great inexpensive antenna that can be built in an evening, see John Creed's dipole antenna design. Mount your antenna higher and no obstructions to increase range and signal strength. Think line of sight. Use quality shielded cables, but audio cables are no substitution or fix for generic sound cards or bad audio levels. Using an FM transmitter and outdoor speakers, audio splitters are fine, so are Ethernet baluns for long runs. You can run audio cables 50 feet or more without issue. Just don't run alongside Pixel or power cords unless you love unintended techno remixes. If using speakers, I recommend outdoor Polk or Klipsch. Dual if on a budget. Use an amplifier. Do not power directly. Drock offers affordable, quality amplifier boards powered by 12 volt. Alternatively, find a cheap home theater receiver at thrift shops. You can even make your own push for music with a Drock timer. Buy your MP3s from Amazon. Don't rip your audio from YouTube. If you can't afford $1 for quality MP3 files, you're in the wrong hobby. MP3 gain and normalization will help optimize audio files. MP3 gain will not fix your show's audio in just one click, nor will it make all songs have the same volume. I'm not saying don't use it. Use it, but understand what it does and what it does not do, as it's just one part of having good audio. This is very important. Don't skip this part. Optimizing your gain levels is crucial so you have the strongest audio signal without distortion. Also, don't guess. Regardless of what some rando person online says, don't put FPP at 50 and the volume dial at halfway and call it a day, as your levels will be less than optimal or introduce distortion. Instead, use science. If using FPP, leave it 70. If using a computer, set volume at 100. Leave these settings here. You're not going to be changing them. We are going to use a 0 dB 100 Hz test tone. This audio file is at the maximum volume level without distortion. Any distortion downline is easy to hear with bass. Generate one in Audacity or download here. Play the 100 Hz test tone from FPP or your computer on a loop. Get your in-listening device, such as car radio if broadcasting, or external speakers, and put around 25% volume. This doesn't have to be exact. With the 100 Hz test tone playing, slowly turn up the gain on your FM transmitter till you hear distortion on the in-listening device. Once you hear distortion, back the gain down until you hear no more distortion. Now leave this set here. Done! You've optimized your audio gain and can now turn up your in-listening device. If you're using the FM board, you can skip optimization as inputs are set digitally, so leave it 26. I can't cover much troubleshooting in this short video, you lazy bum. Watch my longer video, but the most common issues I see are in this order: underpowered Pi or BeagleBone, overpowered or underpowered FM transmitter. Using an FM transmitter greater than half a watt and have issues? You were warned. Here's a bucket for you to cry into. No crying in the online forums. Gain levels not set properly or set randomly by some rando online recommendation. Using generic or onboard audio and not a creative sound blaster. Poor antenna or antenna location. Too many USB devices or underpowered USB hub dropping the sound card, or 1 gig USB hub causing audio interference. In conclusion, creative sound blaster. Quality audio files, normalize if needed. Quality FM transmitter, an antenna mounted high and unobstructed. Quality cables. Don't underpower your FPP or use an overpowered FM transmitter. Optimizing gain levels. And check here for the updated hardware list. And you're all set. Your show sounds as good as it looks. Crack a cold one, enjoy the show, and have a Merry Christmas. That is the too long didn't read, and I just need to figure out what's going on with my audio. But I do recommend, please do watch the entire presentation to get the most out of your audio and your show. So George Lucas has said the sound and music are 50% of the entertainment in a movie. I mean, just imagine watching one of his movies without sound. Your display looks good, but does it sound good? Sound is very important in our displays and is often overlooked. Do you have poor audio, distortion, static, flat, undynamic sound, or audio issues? Quality audio is a lot more than just an FM transmitter. And the differences in visuals are easy to see, but with audio, you need to hear the difference yourself. And you don't have to spend a ton of money to get good audio. And then audio questions always come up before the lights come on. All right, intro. Audio differences must be heard yourself on proper equipment. So due to varied listening devices, Zoom, and YouTube compression, I will mainly be using visual comparisons. For any links or products that I recommend in this presentation, I have a URL there. There's the URL and there's the QR code. And I'm going to have an up-to-date list of everything shared, all links, videos, everything in here. So that's the one stop you need to go to for anything in this presentation. And this presentation is simplified and it cuts to the chase. My 2021 Virtual Christmas Summit has more audio details. If you want to go into a little bit more details on that, there's a link for that. And I have no royalties or affiliations from any recommended product here. I don't earn a dime on anything. I just want your audio to sound amazing. Sound Essentials 101. Decibels. Let's go over some terminology. This is a measure of sound level. And why it's important, this keeps audio at the right loudness without distortion. 0 dB. This is the loudest point without distorting, with negative values being quieter. Exceeding 0 dB will cause clipping. Now, what's clipping? Clipping and gain. Clipping is when audio exceeds 0 dB, causing distortion. You can see in the picture right there, it's actually cutting off the audio file. You want to keep your audio levels below 0 dB to maintain sound quality. Gain. This controls the input level of the audio. With too much gain, you're going to have clipping. But with too little gain, the audio levels are not going to be optimized. Clipping can also occur with incorrect audio, gain, and FM settings, or just arbitrarily setting, gain dials or volume levels. Signal to noise ratio, also known as SNR. This is the ratio between the signal, which is good, and the noise, which is bad. And noise can come from many places. It can come from poor quality sound card or audio file, poor equipment or cables, electrical interference. Then with gain and SNR, the proper gain increases the signal strength and reduces the background noise, improving the signal to noise ratio. It's also easier to void noise than it is to remove it later. Like the saying goes, garbage in, garbage out. Normalizing. This amplifies the loudest part of an entire audio file to peak at 0 dB. This maximizes the signal without altering the dynamic range. Even pro audio may be too quiet and need normalizing. And some of the songs that I run in my show, they do not sound all that great. And I throw them into Audacity to look at them, and it's just not normalized. So there's an example of a file that just hasn't been normalized all the way. And you can see right there, that is after normalizing. It's going to take the highest peak, maximize it to 0 dB so that it doesn't clip. You want to normalize audio with Audacity or use MP3 gain, which is built into FPP. Note about MP3 gain is this normalizes without recompressing, preserving quality, unlike Audacity, which will recompress and may reduce the sound quality. Also with MP3 gain, it can also reduce the gain on otherwise perfectly fine audio files to try and achieve a similar volume. One myth going around there about MP3 gain is MP3 gain will make all your songs have the same volume. It will not. It will amplify quieter songs, but it will not fix your show's audio in one click, and it is no substitution for optimizing your audio. Equalization. This is used primarily to compensate for inadequacies in the final output or emphasize certain frequencies. I recommend using sparingly or not at all. If you're broadcasting FM to cars, I recommend leaving it off or flat. Now, if you do have an external speaker set up, so you have control over the final output device, go ahead and adjust the final EQ to your liking, but only after you've optimized your levels. And we'll talk about optimizing the levels later. Sound cards. Basic audio is poor audio. Raspberry Pi, inexpensive generic USB sound cards, and built-in onboard sound cards almost always use the same poor audio chipsets. While they may output sound, they don't output quality sound. There's just a couple examples of things that I've captured from the Pi, from other cards that have been recommended out there, from onboard audio, and there's just a number of problems that you're going to have, reduced output levels. You could have distortion. You could have more noise. You could have clipping. There's just a lot of issues with generic sound cards. It is easy and inexpensive to upgrade your sound card. The Creative Sound Blaster. Creative Labs sound cards provide superior audio, surpassing generic and onboard audio. It will output sound identical to the original audio, full and vibrant, unlike other sound cards. In some cases, USB audio is going to be your only choice. If you're using a laptop, a Pi 5, which has no audio out whatsoever, Pi 0 or a Pi with a hat or a BeagleBone, that's going to be your only choice is USB audio. The Sound Blaster Play 3 is by far and away the clear winner in audio quality and signal strength. And at $19, it's a no-brainer light show upgrade. If you cheap out on this, you're definitely in the wrong hobby. Note, there is a Sound Blaster Play 4, but that is not compatible with FPP, but you are totally okay to use that with the PC or Mac. If you have a CULP board, the following CULP boards use a Quality TI, Texas Instruments DAC, which is on parity with the Sound Blaster Play 3. So if you're using one of these boards, you're good to go. You can use the audio out directly from one of those boards, but you can also use a Sound Blaster Play 3 if you choose. And then in FPP, you're going to want to select this. So that will be the selection for that audio output on these CULP boards. So how do we install the Sound Blaster? If you're using a Raspberry Pi or BeagleBone, make sure you're using the latest version of FPP. Go ahead and turn it off, plug in the Sound Blaster Play 3, and then turn on your Pi or BeagleBone. And then in FPP settings, go to Audio Video, and then select Sound Blaster Play 3 as the audio output device. Restart FPPD, and then you're going to want to make sure your volume is set to 70. This is the default. Make sure this is very important. If you have that any higher, you will clip. Plug your audio output into the Sound Blaster headphone out. And a note on this, newer boards can boot FPP too quick to load the USB sound cards. So if this happens, you're going to want to add a 5 to 10 second boot delay in FPP settings under System. If you're using a PC or Mac, go ahead and plug it in, install the software from Creative's website, and then it has some extra software in there. With the SBX Pro Studio, make sure that's off. You can use Smart Volume, that's optional. I'll talk more about that later, and leave the EQ to flat. Normal gain and volume at 100%. And then go ahead and plug the audio output into the Sound Blaster. So here's some other things that you can do if you're running xScheduler from your PC or Mac. I know most people are running FPP, but we do have people that are running xScheduler. So in the Sound Blaster control panel or the Creative app, if you're using a PC, use Play 3 or the Play 4. For Macs, ARM Macs, you need to use the Play 4. The built-in equalizer is for the Play 3. You can turn that on or off if you choose. Again, I recommend that if you have control over the final output device. You also have a Smart Volume. This is a dynamic audio compressor. This will raise and lower the audio to a more even level on the fly. There is no need to normalize or MP3 gain any of your audio files. And this is going to be a true one-click way to make all your audio have the same volume. Note on this, though, it will affect the dynamic range. Some may prefer how this sounds, and it can also help hide any noise inherent to FM transmission. Speaking of FM transmission, here are FM transmitters. So these are the most common FM transmitters that we use in our hobby and you can obtain. FM or speakers is still the best way for no latency audio, and no, FM is not going away despite any rumors out there. FM is still going to be in cars. They're not taking it out. So with all these transmitters, they all have their pros and cons. There is not one clear winner. You need to pick according to what is best for you. I would recommend matching the pre-emphasis with your region for the best audio quality, but they will work in all regions. And I'm going to go over some notes on each one of these boards here. So on the Rolls HR70, within the same model, I've noticed a lot of differences with these. On the antenna connector, some may have a BNC connection, which is larger, or an SMA connection, which is smaller. Use whatever adapters you need. They're all going to do the same thing. And then some will have a 15-volt power or a 15-volt and USB power, but it's not for audio. And with these Rolls FM transmitters, they are lower power. So you are going to have a reduced transmission range. It's one thing to keep in mind with these. They are going to offer the best audio quality for North America, but you will need to supply a good antenna to overcome the range issues. You will also need a 3.5 millimeter stereo to RCA cable and plug it into line in on the back. For the SignStack half watt, these can go out of stock and they often get pricier near Christmas. Hashtag Rasmussen effect. I've definitely caused things to go out of stock on Amazon, or there could be supply chain issues. There are clones such as the CZE05B, the Reticus, I think that's how you say it, TR508. Those should be fine. Other people have mentioned they've had good luck with those clones. Do not buy the higher wattage models. You're going to be tempted. You're going to find them, but don't buy them. You're just going to run into issues. I also recommend for the power adjustment, you change it into low power. This is how you do this. So press and hold the power button as you plug in the AC power. The LCD will show L for low power, H for high. I recommend setting it to low. And then toggle between low and high with up and down arrows and then press power to set. And I have a little short video on how to do this. So with it unplugged, hold this down, plug it in. There you go, low, switch to high, back to low, power to set, and you're good to go. That's how you do the power adjustment. On the FM board, these are great to have as a spare FM transmitter or as a compact portable display. And the inputs are set digitally. I recommend you leave this at 26. You will need to solder an antenna and power as noted below. And while it is a good FM transmitter, the USB sound card is poor. So only use it as a line in. Do not use it as a USB audio device. Remote Falcon. I know some of you have heard of this. This thing is better than RDS. RDS being the radio data system. So for Remote Falcon, this will give you a website of your show with anything you want to show on it. It has a custom viewer page. You can put pictures, hours of the show, the title of the song that's playing. It's also interactive. You can have users request sequences or vote for the song you want next. And Remote Falcon is definitely better than RDS. And not all cars have RDS. And there's not many good FM transmitters with RDS. And the data to display is quite limited. No, Remote Falcon does not stream your audio, but even if it could, do you want your show playing on some crappy 20 millimeter speakers or with Bluetooth latency? No, you want your show to sound as good as it looks, not just someone holding up a phone to their ear. Antennas. A dipole antenna is superior to the stock antennas and a cheap dangling wire. This will increase range and reduce static drops, but your location results may vary. Every location is different in how FM is affected. It's not going to improve your audio fidelity. For that, you're going to want to use a sound blaster and to optimize your gain levels. And you can mount this inside, outside, on your roof, on your chimney, etc. But higher is better. And then John Creed has an excellent, easy dipole antenna build with PDF instructions. There's his website there. Feel free to use any antenna adapters and extension cables as needed. And there are going to be many other types of antennas out there, such as a J-pole. But with this dipole, it's easy to build. You can go to Home Depot and build it in half an evening, and you're going to have outstanding results. Let me show you some antenna range tests that I have. So this is my location there with the green check mark. This is the antenna range with the Rolls HR70. Within that green, I have very good coverage. Within the yellow, there's some static. And then when the red, there's definitely static. And that's my dipole antenna. I actually have it inside of my garage because I'm really close to where my viewers are. So I can get away with putting it inside the garage. And it also has the wife approval factor. So there's not an antenna just sticking out there on the front of the house. This is the SignStack half watt on low power with the stock antenna. So the stock antenna is not half bad on the SignStack. So actually you get increased range there. And then this is the same FM transmitter, still in low power, but I have it connected to the dipole antenna. And you can see much greater range there. Much greater range. So definitely the dipole antenna is going to give you good coverage there. So what FM station do I use? You're going to want to find an available FM frequency. For that, you can check out the radio locator website. It's going to show you vacant channels or probably the best channel you can use based on your location. I live in Southern California, so the radio airwaves are just chock full of stations, like everything is being used. You're going to want to check there, type in your address, and what's listed may not be the best, so test it for yourself. In my case, that's my results that I got. But I found 89.1 was the best frequency for me. So best thing to do, use this as a guideline, but definitely test it for yourself. Also, some cars have trouble picking up lower FM channels, such as 87.5 or 87.7. So to help avoid this, I recommend only using 88.1 through 108 FM. And only transmit as far as you need. You don't want to interfere with other stations or to raise the eye of the FCC, and even a half-watt transmitter in low power can transmit for blocks or for miles. Optimizing gain levels. This is very important. Please do not skip this step. So, absolutely crucial, because non-optimized gain levels can result in distortion and noise, loss of audio levels, future problems down the line. It may sound good now, but it may not sound good later. And using a test tone is the easiest way to optimize your audio levels. With this test tone, it's 100 hertz, so it's on the bass side, 0 dB. This is the maximum audio output without distorting. There's nothing magic about this file or the test tone. It just is the optimized level, and bass is easier to hear with the distortion. If you hear any distortion at any other points in your testing, then you know it's clipping, because this test file, it's not clipping. So what you can do is you can use a 30-second sample, or you can generate your own in Audacity. And then I have my link there if you want to download the 30-second sample for yourself if you don't want to generate it. Let me give you some visual representation of optimizing gain levels. So the very first picture, this is with your gain levels that are too low. With this, we're going to have less signal and we're going to have more noise. Then in the next section, this is the gain level set too high, which can result in clipping and distortion. And you can see right there in the first part, some parts are going to sound fine. It's like, oh, my audio sounds great. Awesome. But then later on in the song, when it gets louder, it's going to distort. It's going to clip. It's going to sound bad. With optimized levels, this maximizes the gain without distortion. This gives you more signal and less noise. So to optimize our gain levels, first, we've got to prep our sound card. In FPP, go ahead and select the Sound Blaster as the output, or the PCM 5102A if using a CULP, and then restart FPPD. Set the volume at 70. This is the default, but double check that. Make sure it's at 70. Any higher than that, and you will clip. For a PC and Mac with the Sound Blaster, select Sound Blaster as your default audio out. SBX Pro Studio is set to off. Smart Volume set to off, and EQ is flat. You can turn on Smart Volume if you want after optimizing your levels, but for optimizing our levels, you want to make sure that's off. Normal gain and volume at 100%. And if you want to be safe, you can set it to 95. Now, if you have a generic audio, or if you have no other options, you're watching this at the very last minute, your show's going, the first thing you need to do is order the Sound Blaster. And while you're waiting for it to arrive, go ahead and set the Pi at 100%. And if you're using a generic onboard on your computer, whatever, go ahead and set that to 100%. You can have it lower if you need. And then leave these settings, as you will not be adjusting these any further. Next, we want to do is we want to prep our FM transmitter. So on the FM transmitter, turn all levels to 0 and the input gain to 0. So turn it all off, all the way to the lowest. For the FM board, go ahead and set and leave the input gain at 26. You can leave it at 26 and you're good to go for there. And then you're going to want to prep your car radio or your loudspeakers. Basically your in listening device where you're going to be hearing it. Turn the final volume to low. You can have it around 25, 50%. It doesn't have to be exact. You just don't want that part to distort. So have it kind of on the lower end. And then turn off any EQ, bass, treble enhancements, anything like that if possible. You want to give it a fair test there. So for the optimizing the audio levels, the best way to see this is visually and audibly. So I'm going to play that short clip from the beginning. This is just on optimizing the levels, and I'm going to have a list of what to do. This is very important. Don't skip this part. Optimizing your gain levels is crucial so you have the strongest audio signal without distortion. Also, don't guess. Regardless of what some rando person online says, don't put FPP at 50 and the volume dial at halfway and call it a day, as your levels will be less than optimal or introduce distortion. Instead, use science. If using FPP, leave it 70. If using a computer, set volume at 100. Leave these settings here. You're not going to be changing them. We are going to use a 0 dB 100 Hz test tone. This audio file is at the maximum volume level without distortion. Any distortion downline is easy to hear with bass. Generate one in Audacity or download here. Play the 100 Hz test tone from FPP or your computer on a loop. Get your in-listening device, such as car radio if broadcasting, or external speakers, and put around 25% volume. This doesn't have to be exact. With the 100 Hz test tone playing, slowly turn up the gain on your FM transmitter till you hear distortion on the in-listening device. Once you hear distortion, back the gain down until you hear no more distortion. Now leave this set here. Done! You've optimized your audio gain and can now turn up your in-listening device. If you're using the FM board, you can skip optimization as inputs are set digitally, so leave it 26. Yay! And your levels are optimized now. Miscellaneous audio tips. Bluetooth. This always comes up. Just don't use Bluetooth. It's going to have too much latency that you will never overcome. And all Bluetooth audio is recompressed and it's going to add latency. Some Bluetooth speakers have an aux input or an FM tuner. Use that instead. Don't use the Bluetooth. And I can't say this enough. Never sequence with Bluetooth headphones. Your sequences will be out of sync. I've had so many people, they say, oh, my sequences are out of sync. It varies. It's all in different places. And then they ask, well, did you sequence with Bluetooth headphones? Yeah, they did. Well, now they got to go back and fix everything. So when you're sequencing, use hardwire because wires and FM have no latency. You're going to want to make sure you buy your MP3s from Amazon. Do not be a cheapskate and rip poor quality audio from YouTube. Yes, you can afford $1 for a quality MP3. For outdoor speakers, I recommend Polk or Klipsch. And if you're on a budget, you can use Dual Electronics outdoor speakers. They're not half bad. Use an amplifier. Do not power these speakers directly. You can also get a home theater receivers all day long at thrift shops, super cheap. Just buy any of the home theater receivers. They're all, any major name brand is going to sound really good, and it'll drive whatever speakers you connect to it. Drock also sells many inexpensive, small quality amplifier boards that can be powered by 12-volt power supply and timers to create push for music. Car audio delays. Some car audio systems have audio processing delays where it's just going to be slightly out of sync. Unfortunately, there's nothing you can do on your end to compensate for this, nor should you try. You can try having them turn off audio enhancements. That should help. I've been doing my displays since 2017. I talk to people who come to my show all the time, and I've only ever seen this happen once. So not saying it doesn't happen, but it is pretty rare. I also have push for music on the outside. So if someone really wanted to listen to my music or I have a lot of walk-ups, they can do that too. Audio cables. So stock audio cables can often be poor, and an audio cable will never fix incorrect gain, a poor sound card, or poor audio files. You want to make sure you use quality shielded cables. Some good affordable brands are Monoprice, Cable Matters, and Amazon Basics. You're going to want to look for ones that are shielded to prevent EMI or RFI interference with gold connectors. Those are going to be your best bets. You can also use audio splitters. They're fine. So if you want to split one to your FM transmitter and one to your outdoor speakers, go for it. You can also use Ethernet baluns. That's that in the second picture to the right over there, where you can plug an Ethernet cable. And a lot of people have Ethernet cables, so you can run super long runs. And you can go 50 feet or more with the audio runs. It's fine. Just don't run alongside pixel or power cords, or you can have interference. If they're separated by at least a foot, it's totally fine. You can also cross them at 90 degrees. That's fine too. Ferrite cores, these can help reject EMI and RFI interference. You're going to want to wrap around the cable at least once when possible and place these on each AC and audio line. And while they may not perform miracles, they do help. External mixers. In general, these are unnecessary unless you have a specific need. Go ahead and see what I said about the equalization. I've seen a lot of people use these in the past to try to equalize out like poor audio. It's not that good. So yeah, using an external mixer in an attempt to correct poor audio source is a bad idea. Again, garbage in, garbage out. Always start with a quality sound output first. Upgrade your sound card, optimize your gain. Well, how do we connect all this stuff? Shane Ream made a really nice little connection diagram here, and it will show how everything is connected. I'll also have this in my link so you can look at it in detail later. All right, audio troubleshooting. What in the world do I do? Something doesn't sound right. So while I can't anticipate every possible audio problem, here are the most common ones that I've seen. Now, for the testing method, always start your testing at the source and then move down the line. Is the issue present in the audio file? I've seen a lot of times where the audio file itself has the issues. Go ahead and throw it into Audacity. Look at the file and listen to it. Is the issue present at the sound output? Plug the headphones into your sound output. See if the issue is there. Is the issue present at the FM transmitter? Test with different FM receivers, though a car radio in your viewing area may be the best. Like a lot of people, they'll just use one FM transmitter or one FM receiver to test. And a lot of FM receivers are just really bad. Go ahead and test a different one. See if you get the same results or not. Clipping and distortion. A quality FM transmitter cannot compensate for a bad sound card or bad levels. You're going to want to check your output levels because clipping can occur at the audio file, at the sound card, at the FM transmitter, or in the final output, such as car, stereo, or speakers. So again, starting with the source, including the audio file, move down the line in your testing. And when in doubt, turn the output down a little. You can go ahead and reduce in increments of 5. Double check, are you plugged into aux or line in and not the mic? Then start over again, just re-optimize your gain levels. Static. Again, starting with the source, including the audio file, see if the static exists. Do you have a poor antenna? Perhaps try a different antenna. Mount the antenna higher or in a different location. Line of sight is going to be your best. If you can see the antenna from the viewing area, then that's going to be your best deal. Check the connections. Check for cable damage. Check the antenna ground if something's miswired there or not wired. Try a higher output level on the FM transmitter. Perhaps you have electrical interference. Try turning off other nearby electrical devices or move nearby cables. I've seen people where they have like a refrigerator or some other device in their garage and it's causing interference. They unplug it and then the issue goes away. You can also use a USB extension cord to move the sound card and FM transmitter away from other electronics. Like I mentioned before, try a different radio receiver as not all radios are the same. Interference. Try a different FM frequency. It's also possible the frequency you're using now that you've been using for years, maybe a different commercial radio station took it over or is transmitting at higher power. So you may need to try a different FM frequency. You can also try a different antenna location or a different antenna. Try a different FM receiver. Remember, some tune better than others. Try separating the transmitter and the audio device from other electronics. You can use that USB extension cable, like I mentioned, to separate the sound card. Are you sure you're not using an overpowered FM transmitter? A lot of people are using the overpowered FM transmitters, and it's causing lots of interference on things. Also, metal, brick, and glass can also interfere with your radio and transmission. Turn off other devices one at a time to find the source of the interference. And ferrite cores can help reject interference, but like I mentioned, it's not going to do miracles, but it does help. Perhaps you have a ground loop. I'll talk about ground loops in another slide here. And then I've seen some USB 3 gig hubs with the NIC cards. They can also introduce audio interference. In that case, use a USB 2.0, 100 megabits per second USB hub instead. Again, see the links in the page for that. Perhaps you have dull, flat, lifeless audio. If you're using lower bitrate audio files, YouTube rips, or files that have been recompressed multiple times, this will severely degrade the audio. And in this case, there's no way to recover from low bitrate or recompressed audio. The damage has already been done. Recompressing audio will degrade it even further. In this case, you're going to want to seek out original, higher quality files and go ahead, spend that dollar, buy the MP3 from Amazon. Also, onboard and generic audio cards take the life out of audio. Use the Sound Blaster and hear the difference for yourself. You plug it in, you will hear the difference. Perhaps you have possible interference. Try a different FM channel. And ground loop. This is a constant, loud, low hum that you hear in your audio. And this is caused by being connected to two different paths to ground. You can move things around so they plug into a common AC outlet, and use an electrical tester to make sure your outlet shows is correct. And you can also try using a ground loop isolator, but this may reduce audio quality. Again, best to get rid of the source of the noise, and there's some links so you can learn more about ground loop if you have that. Power. This is also one of the big issues that I see. So more power. You need more power. You have inadequate Raspberry Pi power. The Pi requires adequate power to operate properly. Otherwise, weird issues will occur. For the Pi 3, it needs 2.4 amps. The Pi 4 needs 3 amps, and the Pi 5 needs 5 amps. Adding more USB devices, it's going to draw more power, even if your Pi appears to be okay. Daniel Culp just added a Pi voltage checker in FPP8. So if you see this, you have inadequate power. There's that little message up there, inadequate power. So you're going to have issues. Power problems. Here are some of the random power problems you can have if you don't have enough power. You can have random reboots, USB devices like the Sound Blaster disconnecting or not showing up. For inadequate power, don't reuse old AC USB adapters you just have lying around, or USB power cables. I know everyone has a box of them. I have boxes of them myself. Don't reuse those. A lot of them have just wildly varying quality. Bad USB cables and underpowered Pis is all too common. Get quality ones. When in doubt, replace the USB power at brick and replace the USB cable with new quality ones. Again, you know the drill. See the links in the page for where to go. All right, too much power. An FM transmitter that is higher than half a watt can and will cause interference or knock out USB devices or cause them not to show up. Yes, a 5 watt and a 7 watt and higher can be cheaper, but don't be tempted. I do not recommend using an FM transmitter over half a watt, as all sorts of weird issues can occur. And we've had, pixels go wacky. We've had controllers go out or reboot. We've had garage door openers not work or randomly open. And I've seen crazy things that happen with that. If you need to separate your FM transmitter from your Pi, it's overpowered. Properly powered, they can be placed next to each other without any issue. I mean, my Pi, controller board, everything, they're all in the same box, literally on top of each other, and I have zero interference, zero issues. All right, we're almost done. Hang in there. Hang in there. Thanks for hanging out, guys. All right, so to recap, audio output. Use quality audio files from reputable sources like Amazon and avoid YouTube rips. Use quality USB cables and power adapters. Avoid recompressing when possible, and use higher bitrate to receive any audio files that you modify. Normalize audio files if needed in Audacity to 0 dB or MP3 gain, but MP3 gain will raise or lower the gain without compressing. Optionally, use the Smart Volume in Sound Blaster software if running your show from a computer. Use quality sound card, the Sound Blaster Play 3. Avoid generic and built-in audio. Avoid any audio enhancements. Set the EQ to flat. Only EQ if you have control over the final output source, such as loudspeakers. With the FM transmitter, always plug into aux or line in. Turn down or off the mic input. Mount the antenna head level or higher, and or use a better antenna. You want to think line of sight, unobstructed view of the antenna from the viewing area. It's going to be the best. Use ferrite cords on AC and quality shielded audio cables. Choose a free FM frequency. Use 88.1 to 108 FM. Only transmit as far as you need. Do not use FM transmitters that are higher than half a watt. Test for sound issues starting at the source and then move down the line. Make sure you optimize your gain. Use a test tone, 100 hertz test tone at 0 dB. In FPP, set the volume to 70. For a computer, set it to 100%. Turn the final listening device, such as your car or loudspeakers, to low. And then while you're playing that audio file, turn the gain up on the FM transmitter until it distorts, and then back down until you hear no more distortion. Once you're set, go ahead and leave it there. Again, here's the links to everything that has been recommended, and I'm going to keep this up to date. So it has links to the hardware, the software, the videos, the audio file, everything. And yes, I have been known to cause Amazon stock issues, and I'm going to list alternatives when possible. So if something gets out of stock, I'll update it there. And then a special thanks to some people here. Since I've been doing these presentations, I've had so many people reach out to me just saying how much it has really improved their audio. And I've been to lots of shows and I've been hearing the difference with people upgrading their audio, and it really sounds amazing. And also, special thanks for additional testing and troubleshooting to the other people who helped out. And there's links to their pages there. Again, thank you for watching Perfect Sound, Perfect Show, audio and FM transmission. And there's a link to my Facebook page if you want to check out my show. Any questions?
There was a question in chat about the whole house FM transmitter.
So the whole house FM transmitter, I know it can be easily obtained. One of the testers who I've been working with, he tested that. He says, don't use it. It does not sound good. So that's why it is not in here as a recommendation. I have not personally used it myself, but some of the other people that I threw there in the thanks, they have tested those and they said, nope, not good. Don't use it. If you use it and it sounds fine, awesome. More power to you, but not one of the major ones that I would recommend.
I have another question actually related to the transmitter. So
Mm-hmm.
the two that you recommended, does it come with the antenna or do I need to build it, or is there an option to purchase the antenna? Um,
The sign stick that will come with a built-in antenna. It's like a little what they call a ducky antenna. It's fine. It is adequate. It will definitely do the job. The Rolls FM transmitter, I actually got mine off eBay, so it didn't come with a built with an antenna, but I have seen if you buy directly from the site, it does have an antenna, but I haven't tested the built-in one. But even then, it's going to be lower power, so you're going to want to use a bigger antenna. I do recommend, when possible, to build that dipole antenna. It does a really, really good job as an antenna. I wish there was one out there on Amazon that was not super expensive that you could just plug in and it would work amazing. I haven't found one yet. If I do, I will definitely let people know.
okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and another thing, so I know everybody mentions the Amazon MP3. Are iTunes MP3 okay? I purchased mine from iTunes.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fine. You can use that. I know they use AAC, and FPP will play back ACC as well, and they are unencrypted. So yeah, you're fine. You're going to get quality audio files there too.
okay. I downloaded, I think my format ended up being MP4A, and I used a website to convert it to MP3. Would that have impacted the file itself?
It will reduce the audio quality. So what you're doing is you're recompressing the audio file.
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend doing that. FPP can play AAC files directly, so you don't need to
Okay.
reconvert them.
I see. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, and
Thank you.
also MP3 and AAC, a properly encoded MP3 file, AAC file, it's going to sound indistinguishable from the original. And Amazon, they do perfect settings on their audio files. They sound amazing. So you don't have to worry about audio quality from those sources.
So then, in order to replace, because as I mentioned, I converted them to MP3 and then I used those MP3 to build the sequences. Do I just go into xLights and replace the audio file with the MP4A and it should be fine?
Yeah, you should be fine. I know an FPP. Are you using FPP or X scheduler?
I'm planning to use FPP. I haven't tested it or touched it yet,
Mhm.
but that's my plan is to use FPP.
Yeah, as long as it did not mess up the timing of the song,
Okay,
then just switching the audio file is not going to be a problem. And I know in FPP you can select which audio file you want. So you're playing your sequence and you're playing your audio file. Just upload the other audio file. Go ahead and select that one as the one you want to play back, and it should be totally in sync.
got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have any questions on FM transmitters or the sound?
I do,
I am
John.
Go ahead.
I am not looking at the chat, just FYI, just so I just have the
I'm
screen here.
watching it.
So thank you very much.
So, what's your opinion on wave files?
Wave files, totally fine. Wave files are not compressed. You're going to have the full audio quality. It's just that they take up a whole lot more space. That's it.
Right.
If you have the space, go for it. It doesn't matter. I mean,
Okay.
I am definitely I of course like high quality sound, but I'm not one of those crazy snobs where it's like I have to convert all my MP3s to WAV file. No, you don't need to do that.
Okay. And then the other last question I have is, what about this 200-foot rule that the FCC has?
The two, the FCC, it's funny. I have not seen anyone ever get in trouble with the FCC in this hobby, but it's also one of those things you don't want to just be having like a super crazy high powered FM transmitter. You're running it all the time. It interferes with someone or someone else's device, and the FCC does come to you. So for that, if your levels are low and you're only broadcasting within a short range, you're good to go. I don't offer any legal advice.
Yeah, I hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's why I recommend only transmit as far as you want. I've seen people here where they have people online, they have a show and they're like, "Yeah, I want to broadcast for blocks so that people can listen to my show at night and I'm playing the off-show audio." Spoiler alert, no one's listening to your show at night. So only broadcast as far as you need and you're good to go.
So I was going to make one comment about the iTunes, the ACC files.
Mhm.
Inside of iTunes, you can actually click your song and then go up to the file menu and pull down to convert it to an MP3 right out of iTunes.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, can you say that again?
So if you click on your song inside of iTunes, you can go click on file, pull down to convert, and then select MP3.
Okay, I'll check that out. Thank you.
Yeah, there should be no need to convert that. Now, I will say in the old days of iTunes, when the files were copyrighted, you can't play them back on anything, then you're going to have to convert them to an open audio file so that they can be listened to. But with any modern stuff, I don't use iTunes. I know Mac. I have the original Macintosh. I was the person who switched from Mac to PC. So I don't have a Mac. I don't have iTunes, but I do know they use AC and FPP can play that back. So as long as it's unencrypted, you don't need to do any conversion. You can just use the raw audio file. But if you find it doesn't work, go ahead and convert it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I got a couple for you. I have an FM tuner. I think I got that fixed, but I want to touch on the Sound Blaster piece. Where I'm at in Texas, we get like I get a pretty big crowd, and I've been throwing up basically powered speakers out front, and essentially I've been running the Pi to an XLR converter. And do you think, in your opinion, I haven't tried it, maybe that Sound Blaster would uh, ha have better audio, if you will? I mean, it sounds okay, but I can tell that I have some, uh, I guess, I did have clipping before, but I think I corrected it last year, but I know it's not 100%. And
What
are you familiar with that, I guess?
what's your audio output? What's your audio output device? Is it the Pi?
Yeah, the Pi is the audio output and it runs through a because the speakers outside are XLR inputs.
Yeah.
So I have to
Yeah,
go
so
to that converter to get to XLR.
yeah, so for the XLR, that's just an analog source conversion. That's not going to
Yeah.
be your issue. Your issue is going to be the Pi audio. The Pi
Okay.
audio output device, those do sound really bad. So $19, man, not that expensive. It's
Oh
going to
no, no,
sound so much better. And then you
I'll,
can still use your XLR and everything else like that, but also make sure you optimize your audio levels because you said you were having some clipping. So make sure you optimize your audio levels as well, your gain levels.
yeah, I had those in the initial ones. And the other one, I'm not sure if this really applies here or not, is I run like a 2.5 hour set, 2.5, 3 hours.
Hmm.
And essentially I've got some sequences from, a few different vendors.
Hmm.
And one issue that I have really been last year, it really bugged me is the audio for some of the sequences would get really low, and then I'd have to adjust it manually, and then like the next one would go way high. And I tried to, do you know a better way to equalize the audio, if you will? Because I mean, like for example, I have Ghostbusters from MLS, and then if I run something from like Visionary, it would be really low on Ghostbusters, and then Visionary would come on, it would just like rock the neighborhood. So I'm
Yeah.
like, it's just the audio levels, and I tried to do it online to equalize the tracks, and I just can't seem to get it right. Is that something that you faced before?
I've seen this with some files. Like, for example, I have one song in my show purchased from Amazon, professionally done. In fact, it's a John Williams track. It's
Hmm.
called "The House" from Home Alone,
Yeah.
and it it has. I threw it into Audacity, and it is not normalized at all. It doesn't have it to its maximum levels. Also, in that song, there's very quiet parts, but there's also big, louder parts. Personally, I like the dynamic range. I like the quiet parts. I like the louder parts. I like that contrast. So for that file, I only normalized it so I can maximize my audio levels. But there are going to be some people where they want their song they want that lower part to be louder. They want the louder part to be a little bit softer to make it more uniform. In those cases, you're going to want to look into something called audio compression. It's a compressor, not to be confused with MP3 compression, anything like that. But in Audacity, the first thing I would recommend is whatever songs that are pretty low, go ahead and throw that into Audacity, take a look at it. Does it look like it's normalized? First thing, normalize it, try that, see if that makes a big difference. But if you want to make the lower parts of the song sound louder and the louder parts a little bit lower so it's more uniform, you want to look into an audio compressor, like I was mentioning with Audacity. There's going to be a whole lot of settings you can play with, but they do have a lot of built-in presets that you can try. So go ahead and try the different presets, and you can also look visually to see how it looks. This is kind of one of the parts I took out of the presentation because it doesn't come up all the time. Also
Yeah.
with the compressor, it gets a little bit more complicated, and it's more of an art form than I just click it and just make it work kind of thing. Normalization, that's relatively pretty straightforward and easy, but doing a compressor, it gets a little more complicated, a little bit more nuanced. I would just focus on the problem audio tracks that you have, see if it sounds good, try those presets. You can play around with the dials, but you're going to be spending all day if you do that. So if you know what you're doing, go for it. If not, use the presets and then go ahead and export it, save it, and then try from there. um,
Yeah, I'm not
I,
trying to reinvent the wheel or like
yeah,
change the
exactly.
dynamics of the song itself.
Hmm.
I'm just trying to make sure that all of the songs at the high points and low points have approximately the same levels. I realize it's going to be
Yeah.
impossible to make all perfect, right? But like within a realm of reality, because there's like,
Yeah.
I probably have 4 or 5 tracks. But then again, I guess I could probably reach out to the sequencer that did those and see if maybe there's an update or
They
maybe.
may or may not help. You know what? Just throw it into Audacity and see what the file looks like. You might be surprised.
Okay.
Because I've helped a lot of people with their audio on the side, and I've had people where they would send me a song, and like in one person they received it a bazillion times, and it just sounds horrid. And then
Yeah.
another person, they sent it to me, and the gain level was like nothing. And I'm like, what was done with this? So check it out, throw it in there, go from there. You normalize. That's going to be your kind of your first line of defense. If not, you can use a compressor. Like I mentioned, that does change the dynamic range. It's more of a personal preference. I like the dynamic range, and I like how the author intended it. But other
Yes.
people like the how the compressor sounds. Like all FM stations, they compress everything. They compress everything, so everything sounds like very very uniform. But it also kind of takes the life and the dynamics out of the audio too.
Yeah, with the FMPs, the transmitters, I mean, people are in their car when it's cold. If they're in their car, that's their choice. So whatever. I want the people that are outside to get that experience.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hey, go ahead and get that Sound Blaster, optimize your levels. You should be good to go. Check those audio files too.
Sweet deal. Thank you so much, Jason.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome.
Hey, Jason, one more question.
Yeah.
Um, do you have a video link or anything on YouTube on how to normalize audio file in Audacity?
Actually, it's pretty easy to normalize. You throw your audio file in and then go to, I think it's effects, and then normalize, and then it'll ask what level you want it to be at. Make sure you there. I think there's a selection. I'm going by memory that has do not clip. Make your level to 0 dB. Click OK, and
Okay,
then you're set.
I see. And that's
Mhm.
about the only thing I need to check in Audacity, right?
Yeah,
Or
no, normalization is going to take care of
yeah.
most most of the issues, especially with the lower ones. You don't need to do it with everything. If something sounds off, go
Okay.
ahead and check it. The best thing to do is to throw it in Audacity and take a look at it, see what it looks like.
Got
As I mentioned, there's a lot of professional audio where it's done perfectly. It's like bravo, chef's kiss, mwah. But then there's other ones where what in the world was that guy thinking?
got it. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Somebody was asking what's your opinion of EDM transmitters?
Dun dun dun. They are dead. I was trying to play taps. I don't know how to sing taps. They are dead. They are defunct. The website's gone. You can't buy them or anything. In my last presentation I did in 2021, when you could still get an EDM transmitter, I did test them. They're not the end all and be all. The Science Tech is better. They are also very hard to optimize the gain levels. If you find one, if you already have one, if it works for you, fine. But I'm not going to recommend something that can't be easily obtained. And I don't want to throw people on a wild goose chase trying to hunt, things that aren't made or sold anymore on eBay. I mean, I already cause enough stock issues with Amazon. Trying to have everyone scramble on eBay, that's just going to look scary. So, yeah, no. I mean, when I first started getting into this and I saw into the hobby and I saw the recommendations that people were making for audio, I mean, I was just pulling out all the hair, whatever I had remaining, on just the wildly inaccurate things on this. And people were saying, "Oh yeah, just get a $300 EDM transmitter. That's going to fix all your issues." And of course, it doesn't. So hopefully that helps you. Did I kind of answer your question on that part?
Okay, there's another question in chat from Jason. Wants to know what's a good choice to use speakers at a distance of around 40 feet as far as a cable to connect them up.
40 feet audio cable, just get a good gauge. Larger gauge, the better. Copper, make sure you use 100% copper. You can get the copper cables, monoprice. They sell them all day long. They make amazing cables. You're going to have no problem there. 40 feet, you're not going to have any problem. I mean, my home theater, I run all through my attic and I have longer than 40 feet on my home theater speakers. So that's not going to be an issue there. For the question on that, do you have speakers? You're looking for speakers?
Yeah,
Um,
I got speakers from that I'm plugging into the Sound Blaster, and I just want to make sure
Directly?
that I'm sorry.
Are you plugging them directly or are you using an
Yeah,
amplifier?
so I no, the speakers are amplified.
Oh, they're okay. So they're
Yeah.
self-amplified.
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, and you're just looking for like running an
I,
auxiliary
I
line.
yeah, I just want to make sure that if I run that cable 40 feet, that it's going to be good. I'm not going to have any hum or buzzing or
Oh,
anything.
yeah, you should be fine as long as you're using a quality audio cable. I mean, for my display, I have my audio running a long distance. I have it running outside my house and then into an Ethernet balun that goes across the inside of my eaves and then down, and then I have it convert to another cable that goes out to the front lawn, and no hum, no interference, nothing. Sounds perfect. But make sure you use quality audio cables, and all the cables I'm using are for monoprice.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Jason or for Jason here?
I think you caused Amazon panic because I can't find sign stick on there anywhere.
Yeah, probably. I do have, yeah, check the page. I do have some links for those clones. And like I mentioned, I will keep that up to date in case anything changes. But yes, Rasmussen effect.
Thanks, man. Appreciate your time for
You're
sure.
welcome.
I want to
Thanks
say
everyone
thank
for
you for this
Mhm.
class, and we'll go on from here.
All right, thanks everyone.